Hey, everybody. This is Positive Out Loud. Today we have a very fascinating guest. We have Sandra Larsen, and she is an integration practitioner coach who helps people who are going through chronic pain, whether physical or mental, spiritual. And I wanted to get her on the show because I wanted to find out more. I haven't had a guest like her on the show before. So I just wanted to find out more about what this integration is, what it's all about, and how she's helping people here. And thank you so much for being on the show, Sandra.
My pleasure, Taz. It's great to meet you. It's great to be here. And I'm really excited about what I do, so I'm really glad to share it.
Can we start off a little bit with some of the challenges you may have had in the past and how you kind of evolved to where you are now, and what type of things you did to help yourself?
Sure. I think trauma is just a part of life. We all have different traumas, different varying degrees of traumas. I had mine growing up, and it got me to be out in the world more and look more to alternative kind of answers to things. And then more significantly, I think, is a spinal cord injury I had. So I had been in the healing arts, massage therapist, natural health educator, and that for many years. And then my back got injured, and it was really horrible. They damaged it during the surgery, so I was like most horrible time of my life. But it got me to say no to pharmaceuticals, no to surgery. None of that is helping me. It's not going to work. What I really need to do is go within and calm down and work at healing myself rather than looking out there for answers. And so I started looking at more of trauma-informed modalities, realizing that, like right now in the bigger picture of things, we're realizing that talking about it can actually re-traumatize. So we're more open to somatic therapies of movement and doing things about it. So I started doing things about it and became a Pilates instructor and gyrotonic and all these different things that whatever helped me, I, like pearls on a strand, I just kept learning more and seeking and finding and sharing with others. And so
what were some of the symptoms that you had that you were trying to work
of my back? From my back injury?
Right.
Oh, I was on fire from the waist down. I couldn't function. And none of the pain meds were helping me.
Okay.
The only thing that helped me was if I smoked a little pot and took a couple sips off a beer.
Right.
Exercise, and that's it.
Which is why a lot of people do that, right? Because they're going through chronic pain. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people are winding up getting opiates from their doctors, and then they can't get enough or anymore, and they switch over to other things. So anyhow, my surgeon, I went back for a checkup, and he was like, I can't believe you're not on any drugs. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. They don't help. And he said, you are amazing. You're doing so, I don't see people do this well. That's why you're doing so well, because you're not doing the drugs and you're moving. So they have an integrative pain rehab clinic, and he hired me to work there.
Oh, wow.
So that
how long did you have this pain?
It was probably 6 or 7 years of, like, on a scale of 0 to 10, I was between like a 4 and a 7. So after about 6 months after the surgery, it started calming down and wound up between a 4 and a 7 for years. And I thought that was just the way it was. Okay. And then I was a Pilates instructor at the time, because Pilates really helped. If you keep your core strong, we're way less apt to hurt ourselves. So I got hired at this integrative pain rehab clinic with all these hotshot doctors and everything. And I'm like the lowly Santa Cruz girl, which was interesting in that I got to teach a wellness class where the door was closed and I could do what I wanted, even though I was supposed to follow their protocol, which I did. But I switched it around and I incorporated things that I had learned that really made a difference with trauma. So back in, I think, 2012, 13, I got introduced to trauma releasing exercises.
Oh my God, I did that probably about 3 months ago with a person that does it here in Seattle. And yeah, it was so fascinating. I mean, after I had that experience, the rest of the day, I just felt so like flexible and relaxed and just like calm.
Nice. It's huge.
Mm-hmm. So simple to do though. So simple. Yeah.
But have you done it since?
No, after that, I went to a week-long event with Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Ah.
And my body automatically did that like 10 times the amount.
Nice.
Just going through the meditation. So I think I kind of experienced it on my own after that.
Wonderful. Yeah, once you know the pathway, you can always get back there more easily, because that's the way our nervous system evolved. But it's weird, you know, you don't want to let people see you tremoring. So we judge it and we don't do it. Matter of fact, most of my clients, well, not all of them really like it, you know, but it's no big deal. Yeah. But to get someone to do it regularly, because the effects are cumulative.
I mean, my dog does it regularly.
Yeah, animals know. Mm-hmm. But so I started doing that, and I went and got certified because I knew, like, I didn't expect it to help my back or anything, but I could tell it was really helpful. So I wanted to share that with people. Mm-hmm. And I got trained, and then I went and did the advanced training with David Berselli, who's the founder of TRE.
Oh, yeah. I've read about him. Mm-hmm.
He's amazing. And so while we were in the training, you know, you do a lot of tremoring over the course of the workshop. And I said, you know, I feel like my left leg I've got nerve damage there, and it really bothers it when I do this. And he goes, well, just let that leg lay out. And I'm like, okay. And then he comes around, and I said, you know, I feel like it's just maybe aggravating that area. And he goes, well, maybe you're about to unwind something. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm just aggravating it.
You're like, no.
And then all of a sudden it was like this major unwinding stretch that my body did. I mean, they videoed it too. It was like, whoa, look. And as it did that, it was like it unwound, and I don't have any more back pain. I don't have any more back pain.
Wow.
I was in horrible pain. And there's a lot of people right now who are in horrible pain.
The body knows how to unwind itself, apparently, right?
Yeah. Well, do you know what fascia is?
I sure do, because I have pain in my left foot.
Uh-huh.
It is, right?
Yes, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so do you roll it with a tennis ball?
I have done, I mean, there's tons of things that I've done so far alternatively, and nothing's quite worked yet. But I should do more of that, yeah.
Maybe if you continue your TRE, it'll work its way to that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. But so I really wanted to share that in the clinic, you know, and they're like, no, you can't do that here. And so I talked to the doctor, and I said, look, all these patients are frozen. They're traumatized. They're not going to heal until you settle their nervous system.
Okay.
And he's like, I know that. But they weren't quite, you know, there's like this disconnect where, yes, I know, but we're not going to do that. You know, and even some of the other hot shots, it's like there's a book, what's the one about why zebras don't have stripes, where they do the whole thing about how the nervous system needs to be reset and calmed down, but they don't connect with how to do it. And one of the definitions of trauma is when you can't do anything about it. So being empowered to have tools to do something about it, mm-hmm. and start looking within and taking a deep breath, you know, things like that. Until we do that, there's not a whole lot else that's going to shift. And once we do that, it all shifts.
Right. It reminds me of the breathing work that I do also with like the Kundalini, how that unwinds inside as well. And
yeah.
Pretty amazing.
These bodies are amazing, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. So after you did the TRE, ever since then, you haven't had any pain?
That's right.
Wow.
I had been doing TRE. It took me maybe even as much as a year before it released my back. But I was doing it, like every other day for 20 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
And other things, like it's helped my digestive. I have Crohn's disease, which I've really kept a good handle on. So, but I have to work at it. And I'm not supposed to do anything. No flour, no sugar, no this, no that. Mm-hmm. So I do pretty good with organic veggies and really good. I'm really into nutrition. But then I get tired of it and go, I don't care. I'm just going to eat it.
Yeah, I mean, we all have those like urges to want to have something really gooey and nice and.
So most of the time I'm really good, but sometimes I can fall back just like everyone. And I think that's important too in terms of realizing that the whole thing about addiction, I mean, it doesn't have to be opiates or heroin. It could be Facebook or church or whatever. And most of us are sugar addicts.
Yeah.
Sugar is probably the most addictive. So I've gone through periods of my life where I've had no sugar for a while. And then it's like, as soon as I have one little bite, it's like, I want 10 more bites.
Yeah, it's really addictive. Yeah. I know. I've gone back and forth with that. So yeah. I think the only way to not have it is not to have it in the house for me.
That's one way.
Yeah.
But it gives me compassion for drug addicts.
Mm-hmm.
Because like sometimes I'll be like on my way home and go, okay, well, I better stop and get some chocolate because there's nothing in the house. No, we're not doing that today. Yes, we're not. No, we're not going to do it. Don't bother going home first because you're just going to have to drive back out and get it.
Me, I love ice cream, so I get it.
Yeah, same thing, right? So it makes, like, I can see how, it's like I don't even have the intention of trying to not have it. So I can understand, like, a heroin addict going, no, it's part of my day. I'm not interested in giving it up. Just like before, I could never really connect with why would anybody, how do you get there, But having compassion for one another about addiction, I think, is really important. We tend to, like right now, the whole thing about homelessness, there's people who are homeless because they're addicts. There's people who are homeless because they have mental issues. There's a lot of different reasons. But, it's like there are most vulnerable people and they need help.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I've been pretty much just doing this locally until the past 2 years where I started to work online, where I teach TRE online to people.
Oh, great.
So what happened is once I started working at this pain management place, I learned some other things and realized that TRE in and of itself is more for shock trauma, right? Like with vets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's kind of an adjunct to something. So what I realized is that to make it more of a comprehensive, I'm a Buckminster Fuller fan, so I was looking how to make it more comprehensive. Like,
mm-hmm.
How do I get people to actually do it so they can see results? Because compliance is always an issue. But so I figured out a way to integrate other things into it in terms of first understanding that we have to look within, and what are some other tools? Because not everybody likes the tremor. So I have a list of different tools that I teach people and a vocabulary of, okay, how am I feeling right now mentally? Is my mind racing? Am I sluggish? But to get in a habit of checking out how am I mentally, how am I feeling emotionally, to the point, and practicing these tools, to the point of being able to notice, okay, I'm starting to activate. I can tell my breath is shallow or whatever symptoms, I'm starting to activate. What's a tool I can do right now so I don't go into fight or flight?
Okay.
Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is take a nice deep breath, make sure my rib cage gets big and wide and lifts as I inhale through my nose, and really release the whole thing. Let the rib cage come down, because some people's rib cage doesn't move.
Wow, okay.
So all the things that we've learned about breath are all fine and dandy, but it's automatic. So whatever works for you is fine with the breath. As long as your exhale is a little bit lower than the inhale, it will be bringing you down. It'll be settling your nervous system out of sympathetic.
What do you mean a little lower? Just
so if my nervous system is neurocepting a threat,
mm-hmm.
I go into fight or flight.
Right.
So the way to get back down is to settle the nervous system. And there's many ways to do it, but it's not just by talking about it, it's by doing things. So one of the more simple ones is to get in touch with your breath and make the exhale longer. Another one that's really common is to engage your senses out there. So look around the room, and it's important to turn your head both ways to go past the midline, but what do I see? Or pick a color. How many red things do I see? And then what sounds do I hear? Mm-hmm. What am I touching? My feet, my butt, my hands. What is my body touching? Or what can I touch? What do I smell? And then what's one emotion I'm feeling? So I track them and teach them to track themselves beforehand and afterwards so you can see what's working. Because some people like some tools and some people like others.
Right.
You know, for some people, dancing is what it's all about, and other people, it's art or
music or whatever, right? Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things. And, you know, the whole thing about mindfulness, some people aren't ready for that. You know, that can send them, like if somebody's in a real activated chronic freeze state, mm-hmm. you have them, you know, tell them to close their eyes and stuff. It's not good for them. So being able to just learn and help people in different states. So I came up with tools for integration, because integration is something that we are always doing. We're always integrating in new things and allowing that which no longer serves us to disintegrate. So mm-hmm. that's evolution, right? We're just always being present and calm in the moment. Well,
not always, but especially this day and age, because there's so many distractions. Not only out here, but our mind with the racing thoughts and things that happen. It's really important to have people like you to help people realize that we have to start actually being much more aware of what's going on inside of ourselves. And there's tools that we can actually use to help us feel better, because our body is that place where we have all the chemicals that we need to be happy and healthy and blissful, right? It's much more amazing than any type of drug out there.
It's so amazing. It's so amazing to think of, like, what an amazing time this is to be alive. And all the we're still discovering things about anatomy and physiology, which are changing the course of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, we've got all this false negativity everywhere that everybody's so plugged into and sees it as reality. It's like, how do you get them to unplug and own? If we would each own our own peace on earth, then we would have peace on earth.
Right. Just to have that intention to want to be in peace and love and total, like, freedom. And that's a possibility. I think some people just totally forget that, because, like you said, they get connected to what's going on out here and what's going out in politics and all this other stuff. So, yeah.
But it's more than intention. Like, even if, it's so profound that, like, even if you want to calm down, but your nervous system, like, it's not cognitive. Okay. It's the fascia and the little nerves that are neurocepting a threat. So if you've got a history of, being attacked by a lion, and then you're somewhere around your friends and family and you're still afraid a lion is about to attack you, you're not going to be as pleasant or nice, mm-hmm. no matter, even if you want to. But until we learn how to access the nervous system and self-regulate, I've been working with, I'll tell you a few of my clients. One of them was a bartender that got from behind bashed in the head. I've seen the pictures that they had to cut his head open. He was in a coma for a week. Mm-hmm. Had to learn how to walk all over again and everything. He was like chronic freeze state, right? So he's working on his stuff, and I got a hold of him and started teaching him this. It's only 3 classes, and it's like just like what we're doing now,
Mm-hmm.
except for I'm showing them things and getting on the mat and stuff. So by the 3rd session, we get online like this, and I go, so how are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm good. I said, yeah, good. You having a good day? He goes, no, really, I'm good. And I'm like, all right, so let's go over this, mentally, what's going on, and da-da-da. And he's like, no, really, I'm good. So like some people, their nervous system will let go and go right back down into that parasympathetic place,
Mm-hmm.
which is the only place our bodies can heal. So if we're up there in these chronic activated states, our healing processes aren't taking place. And there's so much healing that takes place so fast. This guy is ready. He's chomping at the bit. He's, going to put his life back now. And before he was just in this chronic fear state, like not really even comfortable leaving his grandmother's house. He's still healing.
So what you're saying is that the body is going to react no matter what, because we're just so used to being in that state, and we got to find ways to do things as taking action in order to calm down the nervous system.
Like for example, a lot of times in court cases, with like violence and stuff, they'll say, "Why didn't you run?"
Mm-hmm.
Not able to. My nervous system put me right into a freeze state, and they don't understand that. So it doesn't matter what we want to do. Sometimes our nervous system overrides that,
mm-hmm.
and we don't have a choice. And so any little moment that we can come back down is really important, because the less time we spend there, the harder it is to get there. So that's why, like things like yoga and all kind of things that are really helping people come back around. Lately, I've been working with veterans, war veterans.
Mm-hmm.
These are great guys, wonderful young men who really wanted to do the right thing and come back, and they're not being taken care of properly, and they're shell shock, PTSD, whatever you want to call it. They're horrified.
Right.
And I know some of them, it'll take even a year or two with the tremoring before their body can let go. It's like really deep, complex trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some groups that are veterans who are taking other veterans down to Central America to do plant medicine. So like ayahuasca
mm-hmm. ceremonies.
And that is really helping.
How fast is that helping? What is that like for them?
Well, I just recently a group that went,
mm-hmm.
I'm talking to them, and they're like, yeah, well, I'm trying, but like, some days are good, and other days it's like, I don't think I'm going to make it through the day. Like, we got 20 suicides a day?
Yeah, it's really bad. I work for the Veteran Affairs, and we just had training on suicide prevention, and I was clueless on how much suicide was going on. I mean, it's so much more rampant in the veterans, yeah. And
they really need their nervous system. They need to understand how to
mm-hmm.
regulate their own nervous system. The Wounded Warrior Project's given TRE a lot of money to work with veterans because it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what happens with these guys, okay, so I meet them like at least 3 times before they go, and just to connect, and, they don't want to talk about their stories at all. So we just talk about other things and do some exercises and get them ready. And then they just came back last week, and there's just this glow about their face. One of them, he's hugging a sloth, and this was a tortured soul a couple weeks ago who was like feeling so blessed and understanding his life and how to move forward now. Mm. And now he wants to go out and find other veterans and help this happen for them.
Right.
So now
it's just chills on my, yeah, right?
They're great guys. They're trying to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
They deserve some help.
If only we can get this legal, right? But that's a long road.
Yeah, well, it's funny how things are changing rapidly, though, now.
I know.
People are waking up.
Mm-hmm. In Colorado, we have the mushrooms now, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the whole thing about microdosing, have you heard of that?
I have, yeah.
So, you know, people are like, well, I don't want to do psychedelics. I'm not really into it. It's like, you can take a tiny little bit where you don't even feel it, but it's still working. What is it, the Paul Stamets one where he says you stack niacin, lion's mane, and microdose psilocybin?
Oh, wow.
And that's a nootropic. So that's like a smart drug. So not only does it repair and restore, you get even more neurons and even smarter.
So is this something that he is a product that he has, or is it something that he?
Well, he doesn't sell illegal psilocybin.
That's right.
But he does have a product line. He sells the lion's mane and different.
Right.
Mushrooms.
I do take his immune system one. That's all I take. That's the only thing that I put in my system.
That's
no
great.
other supplements, and I haven't had a cold since last year.
That's great.
Just because of mushrooms.
Yeah, amazing, huh?
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure other things that I do too, but it's I think we go a little overboard with thinking that all these things are going to make us healthy, even if they are in the alternative world, but not necessarily so.
Well, people don't to me, a huge thing is GMOs.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize that a lot of those supplements are made with GMO products.
Wow.
Right. So just trying to minimize GMO as much as we can is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. So how long has it been since you've been feeling like pain-free? And you said that once you get a client, you see them not only for three sessions, or it just depends on
well, the tools for integration is 3 sessions.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll see them before we do the 3 sessions and then afterwards too.
Okay.
So that's something that's a little separate, but everybody's different. How long has it been since I've been pain-free? It's like 5 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So what are some of the things that you do, say, when you run into a situation where you can feel like you're starting to get stressed and you feel like your nervous system is about to, kind of go haywire? What's the first things that you would do for yourself to get yourself back into that parasympathetic state?
The first thing I do is to take a deep breath.
Okay.
And maybe even 5 or 10. And usually when I was going to ask you to, I forgot, but usually at the beginning of a session, we'll do a little breath work and close the session with it. And I think it's really important for us to remember that the things that we do daily, routinely, that become second nature, that we don't have to, like brushing our teeth and showering, things that we don't have to think about, mm-hmm. like our morning routine. If you can meditate, drink a bunch of water. First thing I do when I open my eyes is I take 10 deep breaths and think of what I'm grateful for. Mm-hmm. And then I meditate, and then I drink a bunch of water. So adding on to those things, like how do I keep my thoughts positive? Like throughout the day, all these little things form a net. So when I do some other stress that comes from out there hits me, I'm not going to fall as far because mm-hmm. I've been doing some work of keeping myself centered and grounded.
Because thoughts, they just come from wherever. I mean, that doesn't mean they belong to us. They show up, like bam, bam, bam. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm just going to take a step back and just watch them and let them kind of go.
Yeah. Aikido thoughts, right?
Yeah, people sometimes get stuck in that train and then it just gets off the tracks there, right?
Well, that's why meditation can be so important. Mm-hmm. And I know it's not for everyone. I mean, I think it is, but some people have to settle their nervous system before they can meditate.
Okay.
So I was teaching that mindfulness-based stress reduction. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that one's really nice because all you're doing is following your breath. And they're talking you through the body scan. So your thoughts carry you off and you lasso them back to your breath. And you just, like, you don't judge them or get frustrated, or you just notice it. And after you do that like 10,000 times, then you start realizing, oh, my thoughts tend to go towards wanting to fix things, or my thoughts tend to go towards whatever, but getting an understanding of where do my thoughts go. Mm-hmm. So if I'm trying to fix things too often, maybe I could work at unplugging myself from feeling responsible for things that aren't really my responsibility. But it grows, and it grows this internal place too. That's like, at first when I was doing it, I was like, oh shit, I gotta meditate. And and then it turns into, oh good, I get to meditate. Mm-hmm. I think I'm gonna do it twice today. And it does, it keeps me like in a place where things don't throw me off as easily as they used to.
And it doesn't have to be silent meditation. I do so much better with music and somebody guiding me. Like I do it with Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations, and that I mean, I tried it for a while with just silent or other ways, and I just found my way of doing it. And everybody has their way of doing it, and you just got to kind of experiment and see what works for you. It took me a while to figure it out. So
many paths up the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
As we get there, yeah. So I put together. I'm collaborating with an immunologist scientist at the Salk Institute who's helping me. She's really fascinated about this, and we're like collaborating and putting it together of like the importance of our microbiome. Again, GMOs, but people don't realize, like, when there's times when like brain fog or different mental illnesses are about your gut. Mm-hmm. And there's ways that you can simply change your diet and eat the same things, but just organic instead of GMO, and find really amazing results when your body does it. Because they give you, they destroy the microbiome and they give you leaky gut, and that just sends a haywire to all the systems.
Okay.
So in terms of like anti-aging medicine or longevity, it's all about keeping the tube intact. Because over time, what happens is the kidneys and the liver wear out. So if you can keep that tube intact and not have the holes where things are leaking out, then you're saving your kidney and liver.
Those are very important.
So important.
Yes.
So important. Like, I can't even believe, life is so amazing, and there's so many things we can do to help each other. And yet we've got like Monsanto and all these strange forces in the world that are so destructive. Like, imagine if we put all that energy into making it work.
And there's so many people out there that are doing that now. I mean, I think it's the scales definitely tipping for our favor, for everybody's favor.
I feel the same way, Taz. And especially even right now today, it's like full moon in Scorpio and all these different things shifting, and a lot of people are waking up and saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to claim my life and claim my consciousness. And it's great. I work with, have you seen the movie Thrive?
Have I seen the Thrive? I don't think I have. I've heard of it though.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
Okay.
So we can talk about that another time, but there are a lot of things going on this planet, of people putting stuff together to make things work, that it's sustainable, and we can do this. We're not seeing it because the media's got control of everything, which is why they want to shut out the internet, because if we didn't have this, we'd all think, their story.
Yeah.
This is the information age, but yet we've got false information too. So people are trying really hard to do the right thing, and they're getting bombarded with, wrong things. So I think right now, looking at like healthcare costs and the amount of mental instability that people are suffering, we don't have the money to go to a psychologist or counselor or whatever. Anyhow, we don't have the insurance for it. We don't have the cash for it. So we need to learn to do it ourselves. We need to teach each other. Because like once you learn that therapeutic tremor, you don't have to go back again. You can do it on your own anywhere. Yeah,
for me, one of the things that I've been practicing is the Wim Hof Method, where you do
really?
you do the breathing, and you get into the cold water, and I tell you what, things just leave.
Yeah. That's great you're doing that.
Because if you can get yourself into a state when you get into the cold water and you're in that state of fight or flight, and you bring your breath and you slow your breath down, and you realize that you actually have the power to change your state, that you can do that. It's pretty amazing how powerful you feel after that.
That's great. Great. Yeah. So I've got a website. I'm working with Being True to You. I'm a coach for them.
Okay.
I'm working for some private veterans groups, and I have my own clients. And it's really nice to me to be able to do this online, because a lot of people, like some people can't leave their house or don't want to leave their house, or they're just too far away and there's nobody there to help them.
Yeah.
And I like contacting them, and I love the results. I love hearing back. What was that? I was trying to remember. There's a saying, I can't remember. It's a math thing where, like, really there's only a really small percentage of us that need to get it, to a certain vibrational level, where everyone else will then wake up.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a certain percentage, right? It's not very many.
It's not very many. And I think we're hitting it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember? Go ahead.
Have you always been interested in alternative therapies, and kind of since you were small, or?
Not until I left home. I grew up in upstate New York, where it's really cold and snowy. And I was in dental hygiene school and fled during the blizzard of 77. Went down to Florida. I was young. I was 18. I was in school. I was a waitress and got into some kind of white powder I was told was cocaine. And it got to be PCP, and I wound up in the hospital. It almost lost me, but I had pelvic inflammatory disease and bronchitis, the flu, and I got really sick. And then afterwards, I had to have surgery then too. And then afterwards, I kept getting ear infections and kidney infections. And so that's when I started really questioning, and starting to do wheatgrass juice and carrot juice and looking up herbs and finding different reference books and deciding that I need to get to California. And there was this holistic health handbook that we had, and that got me going. And so when I came out here, I was became a chef at a gourmet natural food store, and then came to Santa Cruz and studied horticulture and permaculture and got into medicinal herbs. And
I think I lost you there for a last minute. Okay. So what is it about the West Coast where everybody is very like open, and isn't it just the coolest thing ever? I mean, California, Washington area, it's just a different world. When you go to the East Coast or even the Midwest or whatever, it's a culture shock.
You're in a bubble for sure.
Right.
I have a theory about that, because I was raised in New York State, went to Florida, came out to California, then out to Hawaii, then up to Washington State, and now I'm back home. But the weather, I think, really affects people.
It does.
Where I grew up, people were cold, right, in the upstate New York. And then down in Florida, it's like they're just really slow. Everything's just really slow. Not culture, but slow, warm. And then California is like, we live in a Mediterranean climate, right? Which is tolerant. We don't have harsh cold or too hot.
Okay.
And we tolerate everything. We tolerate, whatever you want to do is fine with me. Sexual preferences and all that. We have no problem with it. And all that. Back there, everybody's like.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets really cold where I came from. I came from Indiana, and I think this year it's like we had some really weird weather everywhere, right? In Indiana, it was like 40 below zero.
Arctic blasts, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, I'm glad we're here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about where people can reach you, a little bit, what's your website, so we can get those in the links below.
Okay. It's neuralfusion.com.
Okay.
NEURALFUZION.
Z. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're on Facebook and that sort of thing?
I'm on Facebook. I'm also listed on the MAPS website for mental health support services.
Okay.
And, I'm on the Being True to You listed there on their coaches. That's it.
So you use a wide range of alternative therapies to help with trauma, pain, that sort of thing.
I do, and I think before anybody enters into any kind of trauma work, if they would do these 3 sessions with me before they do that, they would have much more graceful healing than someone who's always fighting, going back in and out, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't imagine somebody who's just totally in the state of fight or flight and going and just taking like something like psychedelics, and wow, that would be harsh.
It's like somebody going in on a journey with psychedelics from a chronic activated state, like fight or flight or freeze. It's not good, and they're not going to get out of it what they went in for. They'll get some, but if they could first do this and enter in there calmly and knowing tools to bring themselves down if they start,
mm-hmm.
It's amazing. I've done it. I've gone to ceremonies and taught people a little bit, little bits beforehand, at least getting people to understand, because people will say, oh, my body's done that before. Matter of fact, this one client, she's a friend of mine. And when I was first learning this, I'm like, let me just teach this to you. Give me the time. Let me just show this to you. So she's like, being nice to me. Let me teach it to her. And then a couple years later, she went through breast cancer, chemo, and radiation, and was totally traumatized. And one day she said, my whole body just started shaking. And if I hadn't known what you taught me, I would have freaked out. But I knew what you said, and that was my body releasing the trauma. So I went with it, and I did feel better.
That's exactly what happened to me. I took that one session of the TRE. I went and did some major, we were meditating 4 to 6 hours a day. And then one night, in the middle of the night, I heard this big boom. And then I woke up and I just felt kind of weird and went to the restroom, and I started feeling kind of nauseous. And I lay down, and my body was shaking a lot all over. And I was like, what is going on? And I realized, the trauma's releasing. That's what's going on. So I did that for 40 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. And if I wouldn't have known those things and I wouldn't have breathed through it, it would have been really, I probably would have thought there was something terribly wrong with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your work is really important for people to realize that, to teach people what the body can do to heal itself and some of the things that might come up, during the process, and to keep people in the state of feeling that it's all good.
Yeah, it's amazing how when people are in chronic fight or flight, like you're mobilizing for an attack, right? So our blood thickens, so in case we get a cut, our heart changes, our pupils change, our digestion stops, and those are all things that people are on chronic medications for, which aren't even really helping, right? Exactly. So it's the same symptoms, but if they would first resolve the nervous system, then those symptoms go away. So everybody out there, if you want to help your nervous system calm down, and do it with simple techniques, and have a guide and a coach help you through that, because, it does take that, because if we knew how to do that ourselves, we would have been doing it already, right? We're all here to help walk one another home. Mm-hmm, exactly. So I suggest you get a hold of Sandra, and she will help you along the journey of healing and releasing and feeling like you're human again. And feeling whole, right? Every time I read in the paper of, another mass shooting or something, it's like, if I could only have worked with that person first, it wouldn't have gone that far. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you so much for bringing your light and love and just taking the time to learn all of these. I know, to learn all of these tools and therapies and ways to help people realign and feel that peace that naturally comes from inside of them, right? Thank you for acknowledging me. It's been a great journey. I'm really blessed.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just inspired that you held your back all yourself, and you took that journey, and you were like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, you still would have been in horrible suffering pain and just kind of barely making it through life. And we don't want people to feel like that anymore, do we?
Oh, there's too many people suffering needlessly in this world.
Mm-hmm. There is a way out.
There is. But you know, and it's the same thing with addiction too. It's like they're looking out there for answers. We have to look inside. It all comes back to that. And we know it. Like, you know what a Taurus is? The energy field? I think I sent you a picture of that.
Oh, right. Yeah. What's that?
So that's our energy field that atoms, cells, people, planets, galaxies all have that same energy pattern. So if you look at the Earth, we've got the North Pole and the South Pole magnetic stuff coming out. So it comes out and around at the middle, and there's the Coriolis effect and all these things going on. So we have that, right? I mean, you can say chakras or whatever, but when we are in the calm state, that is a beautiful rainbow sphere, and things are flowing, and we're allowing things in and releasing things. But when for different reasons, it starts to collapse, and we don't have the energy. It's like we can't radiate our energy out. We're letting the world impact us. And if we can do our work to learn to hold our own energy sphere with integrity, then that's how we want to move forward.
And that's what you help people do, is to expand their energy and get it flowing freely, right?
Yes, to restore wholeness to the systems.
Okay. I love that. I work on that every day. I totally get it. So
thank you. Thank you for doing your work and for what you do with veterans.
Yeah. I just, we're just there to help them through their journeys. And once I see people and I get in touch with them, I can have them get in touch with people like yourself. So
good. Available.
All right. Thank you so much again, Sandra. You have a beautiful evening.
My pleasure.
And everybody will definitely get her links below. If you're ready to move and become whole and have that energy flowing freely, just get a hold of her, and she'll be happy to set up some online sessions with you so that you can start feeling better. Thank you again.
Thank you, Taz.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.